Hello, everyone, and welcome to Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet where every single host will have their mouth replaced with cybernetic enhancements next week. I'm your host, Will. Joining me today, Brandon.
Hey!
Noah.
Can I get other cyber parts to me?
Yes.
Instead of the mouth? Good.
Muzi.
What kind of parts are we talking here, Noah?
Oh, do you really want to know, Muzzy?
Saf, quick, Saf.
Error.
Oh no, he's already a robot.
Well, how sad.
I liked my intro the best. It was non-sexual.
I don't know. Go back and listen to it. Might be. There might be something there.
There were undertones in there.
But it wasn't.
Everything
it wasn't
you say
detailed.
is sexual, Brandon. To be honest, it's just
It's
the way you
dripping
exude yourself.
comes out of me.
You know.
Dripping with tension.
Mine was the only one that was on point, which is rather bizarre.
Was it though? I don't think so.
We're
It's
talking
good you
about
thought that, Seth.
turning into cybernetic enhancements.
Yeah,
It's true.
Mhm.
Of course, we're talking about cybernetic enhancements this week. Of course, I'm referring to Onimusha Remastered.
Mhm.
That's, of course, what I'd be referring to. No, how's everyone doing this week before we get into the news?
I've been
Great.
doing fantastic.
Great.
Good.
Playing a lot of great indie games on my Nintendo Switch.
Wow.
Wow.
And I wonder if we got announcements of even more recently. But look at all this foreshadowing that's to come.
I wonder.
I'm doing good, everyone. Thanks for asking.
You're the
No.
host. You don't.
It's fine.
you're
I-
not-
you know,
Nobody
we just-
cares how you're doing.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's okay. Tears of an angel. But boys, you know what? When I went this week to gather the news to talk about, you know what I saw?
What did you
Ooh.
I
see?
saw a lot of video games. We ain't talking about services. We ain't talking about loot boxes. We ain't talking about he said, she said controversies. We're talking about video games, boys.
Ooh.
Monday of last week, I wake up, probably later than I should have as a responsible adult, but it's fine. I go onto the internet. I click onto my favorite video game forum that will not be named. I see the words Streets of Rage 4 announced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. What a good day that was.
What a wild day. Like, okay, I thought I misread it, genuinely. I thought, like, is this some fan game or something? Is this what's happening? Nah, baby. We're in it. This is Streets of Rage 4. It's been like 20 years since Streets of Rage 3, to give you context.
20 years too long.
20 years too long. We are, and I guess to explain to people that haven't seen this, Brandon, can you tell us what exactly Streets of Rage 4 entails?
Well, is it sad that the first thing I thought of when I saw that there was Streets of Rage 4 was, man, I can't wait to hear the soundtrack for that game.
There's nothing shameful about that.
That's
Streets
the
of Rage
first
is
thing.
well known. Well
They
known for
did
its
have some
soundtrack.
pretty fucking sweet music.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of was, oh, Streets of Rage 4. That means more Streets of Rage music. But Streets of Rage is a side-scrolling beat-em-up action game. On the, first debuted on the Sega Genesis. 1, 2, and 3, all on the Sega Genesis. And that's where the series was dead. But
It
it's
died.
Yes.
Mhm.
But
Not
it's
anymore.
coming back, thank God. And
Mhm.
it's just a bunch of fun. It's your simple, I guess it's Sega's answer to Final Fight in a way.
Mhm.
That was a Super Nintendo exclusive series.
Yeah.
And it was great. You were some cops, and you were fighting bad dudes, not the bad dudes, but you were fighting bad dudes. And you had Axel and whatever the girl's name was. I can't.
Blaze Fielding.
Blaze. That's what her name was.
I like that Axel's like older and has a beard now.
It's good. I was gonna say. So what is the new stuff that we've seen in Streets of Rage 4,
Well,
dearest Noah?
Hmm?
What's new in Streets of Rage 4?
Not like. Well, obviously the graphics look amazing. Like a lot of the animations look really fucking sweet too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fighting animations.
You know what made me happy about this? Last week, we spent like 5 minutes going over the Monster Boy remake situation and Monster Boy versus Wonder Boy. It paid off because this week, guess who was making the art for Streets of Rage 4?
No.
it's
Lizard
okay.
Cube, the people that did the remake for Wonder Boy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Because it's got hand-drawn animation. It doesn't use pixel art.
No, and some people
Yeah.
were mad about that. Personally, I think it looks great.
Why?
They're like, I waited so long. Why is there not the pixels?
Yeah, whatever. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's cool.
That
Looks
game's
good.
pretty, right? And
It
so,
looks really
I mean,
nice.
we saw very little of it. We just saw that it exists. We saw Axel, like Noah said. We saw Axel. He's got a bit of a gut on him now. He's thick, big lad, and he's got a beard.
Just
Blaze
in time.
still looking. Blaze is still looking like Blaze. She's still
Blaze.
killing it.
Yeah, she is still killing it. I hope they have the zany cast of characters that they added later on, like the kangaroo.
Yeah, Skates and the kangaroo.
Skates,
The kangaroo.
that was my dude after the second game.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Skates, he's a cool. So I forget the lore of Streets of Rage a little bit, but like he is the little brother of the guy you played as in the first game, and as his name would imply, he's got those rollerblades. He's doing breakdancing moves, hitting guys with the rollerblades.
I know, it's fucking sweet.
Streets of Rage 3, you get an unlockable kangaroo.
Mm-hmm.
It's a secret character. I love that it's a secret character.
You have it because the first boss is like a circus dude with a kangaroo, and if you kill that dude before you kill the kangaroo, which normally you wouldn't, because the kangaroo is kind of like the side character in the boss fight that you want to get rid of first. But if you kill the main boss before you kill the kangaroo, you get to unlock the kangaroo as a fighter.
It's sick.
It's awesome.
So Muzamil,
Yes.
you are a man who does not have a lot of attachment to Streets of Rage, as I understand it, right?
Pretty much anything that predates anything that's related to Sega, like I have no attachment to whatsoever. So yeah, no. I
Okay.
don't.
So as a person that has no attachment to this series, are you still interested in Streets of Rage 4?
Yes, because the game looks pretty great. Like I mean, like the art style. I think the art style is really cool, and that is enough to grab me. Also, I've heard some of these soundtracks for the Streets of Rage games, and if Koshiro is back, which he kind of hinted at Twitter that he's not allowed to talk about it yet.
Yeah, it's very up in the air right now.
If he's back on it and there's a great soundtrack and it looks good as it does, I'm in. I want it, and I this is a franchise that I know a lot of people have a lot of love for, so this feels like a pretty good jumping point for me. Like hey, I can finally know what Streets of Rage is all about. So I'm excited for it.
Okay.
If it turns out good, like
Yeah.
I'm all in. Especially just because the
Okay.
art style is just fantastic. I really think it's a very pretty game. So
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like,
I guess it's worth
gonna
mentioning.
be a little
so,
tough. Oh, sorry.
just about some harder details about the game. Emu, who is doing the publishing for this game, they're also doing Windjammers too. So like, if you look at those two trailers, they actually have a pretty similar sort of look about them too, which is exciting. Just a big 2 weeks for those guys. And the Lizard Q people are doing the artwork. The team that is doing the combat design and the level design is a group called Guard Break. Which is, of course, if you have a name like Guard Break, you're probably invested in these type of games. But they did a game. If you want to look at their last thing they did, it's called Streets of Fury, which, I mean, you could see how they might be interested in working on Streets of Rage, considering their fan game.
Wait.
It's just called
Streets of Fury? Like
Yes.
the live action motion capture beat 'em up side
Yes, that's them.
Wait, those are the people that are making it?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Go and look up Streets of Fury if you've never seen it before.
I love that fucking game.
It's
so
really
much.
it's like half Mortal Kombat, half Dong Dong Never Die, where it's just like these guys like motion captured themselves and like their friends into a beat 'em up, but like the actual design of the game is really good. Like there's a really good combat system there.
I would have loved to be on that development team and just have fun with making that game. That would be a blast. Oh, they must have had so much fun making it.
Yeah, and like now I imagine they're getting what I would describe as probably their dream game, all things considered, right? Like looking at their whole brand is basically based off Streets of Rage and Final Fight. But that is all extremely exciting.
Is it published by Sega? Is the question.
No, Sega is licensing this out, which is pretty wild.
Okay. But
Yeah,
so
so,
Sega's name is still on it.
No.
No.
Just like Shenmue 3, and actually
Wild.
I guess a more related thing, Wonder Boy. They just licensed out the IP to them, but like you don't see their name anywhere. Like they own the IP, but like you don't see the name like anywhere in the credits, anywhere. Like not in the box art.
Not even
nothing.
in the credits.
Wow.
No.
It's not like I mean I get like Mario and Rabbids, right? Like that game was published by Ubisoft, developed by.
I mean, I'd have to check Wonder Boy's credits, but like as far as I know, like at least on the box and any of the press materials and anything, like they don't even mention like original IP owned by Sega, and it's the exact same thing with Shenmue 3. Like Shenmue 3 makes zero mention of Sega, which is kind of funny because Sega just published Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. So, and that's a thing, but
yeah, it's very strange. I mean, I wonder if they're gonna do that with Streets of Rage too, if 4 does well. Like
just
1
for
through 3
whatever
as a
reason,
thing.
like they seem to be willing to license out their IPs with the, you don't even have to mention their name, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it because I mean, it's not like I think we can see from the last 20 years. It's not like Sega had some big grand plan for Streets of Rage, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah, like it's like Sega is well aware that they're never gonna do anything with these IPs, right? And so someone has interest in it, why not, right? Which I wish other companies would do, because like Capcom, Konami, Square, they're all sitting on a whole bunch, just like mountain of IP that they just don't use,
Bandai
And-
Namco.
Yeah, but for what, like, Sega seems to be the only one who's kind of willing to, like, if someone comes at them, they're like, yeah, go ahead, you love Streets of Rage, like, sure,
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah,
They even
that's
did it with
good.
Sonic.
That's good.
I mean, their name
Yeah,
was on
exactly.
Sonic Mania, but they were even like, with Sonic Mania, that's like also very lenient of them. A big
Oh yeah, I
company.
mean, like, just to let someone outside of Sonic Team work on that, right, is just kind of crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now it's like the best Sonic game.
It's not even someone that's outside of the Sonic team. It's someone that actually created a fan Sonic game, and they're like, no, don't create it. Create an actual Sonic game. And then that was that.
Yeah,
Well,
which
yeah,
is
more or
wild.
less.
Like, though it is funny that you mentioned Moose. In similar news to Streets of Rage 4, a little bit the next day, when you mention franchises that Japanese companies have let fall to the wayside, we got an announcement for a remaster. And normally remasters, who cares, right? It's just like, all right, like it's cool. I like a remaster, but But this one's interesting because it's from a series that we have had nothing for 12 years. Onimusha Warlords. It was announced for PC, Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Every platform, baby.
Wow.
Get it.
It's on the Switch, huh?
Yeah. And so this is Onimusha is back, right? If you don't know what that is, I don't blame you because it's been a minute. But Onimusha was a near launch title for the PlayStation 2, right? I think it was like among the first million sellers on the platform. And it was a Capcom.
Yeah, it was pretty big back then.
Yeah. And it was a big thing for Capcom. And I was shocked at the number of Onimusha games. There's 6 of them. There's 4 that are numbered or in the main series, and they had like a spin-off that was like a tactics game. And they also had, and this is uniquely mid-2000s, they had a Smash Brothers ripoff for Onimusha.
Really?
Which,
I did not even
yes.
know about
really
that.
remember that.
If you look it up, you will see it is a platform fighter with the Onimusha characters. It's very weird.
Oh, that does sound weird.
It had a
That's
roster
wild.
of like 19 people. I was like, it was bigger than you would think it would be for like this type of game.
Yeah.
But it's
I wonder if it did better than All Stars.
good question.
I remember Onimusha Tactics. That was for the Game Boy Advance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
'Cause
I've
and the thing
never
was-
played Onimusha, but it's basically, from what I've heard, it's like what Samurai, Resident Evil.
Samurai slaying like undead zombie kind of thing. It has like static camera angles like Resident Evil, like at least the first couple of games, I think.
Yes.
If I remember correctly. It was an interesting take. I guess what would be a good comparison with a modern one? Maybe Neo? No, not Neo.
It is sort of unique because of the fixed camera in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have the tank controls. I remember the one thing that like blew my mind as a kid when I saw trailers is you could how like he will stand there with the sword and like focus and like all like the the health and all the life and stuff that like it's that enemies that flies out at enemies when they die, the orbs, it all like
You absorb them.
it like flows dynamically to you, and that was like a big deal at the time, sort of like the ice cubes melting in Metal Gear Solid 2. I remember being like, this is nuts. But yeah, but like Noah was sort of right. Like it's a feudal Japan beat 'em up, I guess would be the way to phrase it. But like it's more slow paced, I would say, than like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta. It's focused a lot on blocking, a lot on like
it's
waiting
a lot
for
slow
openings.
pace, you parry, and it's like the environment and like the theme is going for more darker. Like that's why I said it reminds you a little bit of Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm. And in tone, it is very Neo because there's demons and stuff that are around in feudal Japan and that type of stuff. But it's like this is coming out later this year, and it is $20 which is the right price for a thing like this, right?
Did you know Onimusha was the first PS2 game to reach 1 million copies sold?
I knew it was among the first, but
he said
the
that
very
earlier.
first.
Yeah, he said it was among the first. Yeah,
but it's the very
but
first.
it's the very
The actual
the
first
actual
one,
very
which is
first.
nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I remember because Gran Turismo was also near launch for PS2, and it was very weird. Like the two games that I think raced to 1 million were Gran Turismo and Onimusha. Like, just what a moment for video games. You can sum it all up with that. But this is one of those things though that I guess I want to ask this of. The thing that is exciting about a remaster like this is not necessarily that it's exciting that it's getting a remaster, but it's exciting because there's lifeblood in this series that was long dead, right? Even if it's just a remaster, it's something, which means that, maybe they might be trying to drum up interest or test to see how people feel about these things. But Onimusha is, like we sort of mentioned, is a slower pace brawler, beat 'em up type game. Streets of Rage, of course, was a Genesis brawler type game. Do you think, like, I'm incredibly excited for both of these things, but it feels like both of these genres have had a hard time transitioning into 2018, right?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, like, especially beat 'em ups, like they're past their prime time.
Yeah,
like trying to make a beat 'em up in today's modern gaming is like really tough. Like the bar is very high to make it like stand out. Especially kind of similar how like Octopath had a high bar to get through with JRPGs in general, but managed to do it. So I have faith in the development team; they can pull it off.
Yeah,
I mean, the only experience I have is like Castle Crashers when it comes to beat 'em ups.
Yeah,
and
so like as a person that doesn't like beat 'em ups, Saf, what would like a Streets of Rage or like a new Onimusha have to do to actually interest you into trying them?
I don't know. I think I had my share of fun with Castle Crashers in regards to it. Like, it seemed very simple. Whereas, like, their moves, you just need to do, like, simple, very, very simple combos, and that's about it. Like, maybe something a little more engaging, something a little more in the style of a fighting game, possibly. That might make things a little more interesting. But, aside from that, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when it comes out. We'll see what the reviews say.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, right? Is it like, I think it's hard because I think that like if you just did another Streets of Rage, if you just did another Onimusha, like I think it would interest people, but I don't know if it would be like the big success they might hope for it to be.
That's the thing though. It's like you have a completely different demographic nowadays compared to like back then when the games first came out. So like the older generations of gamers will be like, oh, this is cool. I played this as a kid, like during growing up. This should be pretty sweet. So like they'll naturally get it. But like the tastes for like the new gamers coming out, growing up now is like they grew up with different games, so their likeness, like what they like, is different from what we grew up with. So it's like it's a hit and miss kind of thing going on now.
Yeah.
Do you know what's really weird? Is that they've kind of stuck to the 80s art style with Streets of Rage 4.
Well, I mean, it was like one of the appeals of Streets of Rage. It was all about the 90s and 80s.
Yeah, it's that's what I find it weird. It's like it's kind of sticking to the guns. Like, this is for the older generation, and we're only going to do it for those types of people. So I don't think they're trying to go for like the young dudes or like any young gamers. Like, I think they're just
maybe a little bit. And I think one thing to be said is, a games like beat 'em ups aren't going to do as good in today's landscape for reasons that kind of Noah already touched upon. And two, because beat 'em ups as a genre has always been very simple, and the games aren't ever very long.
Yeah.
They're, and back then it was more acceptable. Games were only, 5-6 hours long, unless it was an RPG. So, and that was what beat 'em ups were. You weren't going to pop in a beat 'em up and play it for 40 hours because the gameplay was so simple that if you're playing it for 40 hours, you'd be going nuts. You only want to be playing it for 4 or 5 hours most,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's what appeals to me about beat 'em ups. It's just a fun, you can pop it in and have a great time for a little while. It's not something you play every day. It's something you play every once in a while, here and there. It's good to play a nice little beat 'em up.
But
see,
I do think
I
that-
would flip it the other way, where it's like, I think games like this can thrive nowadays because of stuff like digital distribution, Like, that,
Yeah.
because especially during the early PS3 era, where it's like, the digital games we saw were even smaller than this, right? And, and it wasn't as widely accepted yet, right? But nowadays, it's like, because digital only stuff makes the risk so much lower, and you don't have to have a $60 value game, It's
sure,
like,
yeah.
It just makes a game like that's the only reason Streets of Rage 4 can exist, is because
Sure.
in this day and age, like, you can have a $20 digital only release, and it'll do that'll do pretty well, right? Like, people, who's gonna scoff, oh, this $20 game isn't 40 hours with infinite replayability, like.
I mean, there'll be some people that'll do that, but
There will be some people, but
being
those
honest,
people,
There will be
Right.
some
a little
people,
bit silly.
but
Yeah, maybe more than a little bit. But like, I mean, I think that like if a series like Wonder Boy, like we don't know how much they made on the Wonder Boy remake. We don't know if they made anything, but they obviously did well enough that they were able to get to do Streets of Rage, right? Like, I think that probably Sega had a good relationship with them because of Wonder Boy that led to this. I think that like the $20 price point is sort of where beat 'em ups can live. For me, it's much harder for a series like Onimusha, right? Because like Onimusha, it was a game that was like partially about the graphics. Like if you look, like it's sort of even the HD remaster has like the like Resident Evil remake thing where like because everything was pre-rendered, it all looks really good, like it holds up really well. But like I remember while I was reading up on Onimusha in preparation for this week's podcast, and like they dropped $1 million on one cutscene for Onimusha 3, right?
The fuck?
a lot of money.
Like a lot of money for that.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for that opening cutscene. Like, I don't know how the series like that translates to 2018 because the budgets have gotten so bloated and it's hard to tell if a series like Onimusha could possibly make the money back on something like that, right? But I think that for Streets of Rage, the indie market, like a lot of these sort of older series, can now transition into being those type of games.
Yeah, I mean, like, Onimusha, obviously, like the way it plays, like, I don't think you could make a game exactly like that in 2018, right? Like, Onimusha would definitely have to evolve a little bit, right? I mean, same thing, it's like, for example, Resident Evil 2, right? They could not remake that the same way they made remade Resident Evil 1, right? They just there was no way that you could sell a product like that for $60, right?
For the budget they were aiming at for that game, too, especially, right? Like,
So, like Onimusha, I don't know how it would come back, like in terms of sequels, but for sure, I don't like it's not because Streets of Rage has the advantage of it can be this smaller game, right? It can be this, even though it looks gorgeous, right? But like, let's be honest, like it's going to sell for like $20-$30, right? $30 max, so I'd say, and Onimusha, I don't know when it comes to a sequel, like. I don't know if you could make that on a budget,
Yeah, it would have to be like a big coming back party, right?
Yeah, and so maybe if this remaster does like way better than Capcom's expecting, maybe we will see a sequel. But like, I kind of feel like it's gonna be like an Okami thing where like Capcom's all about porting it to every system possible, right? But that doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily see a future in this franchise. It just means that they're making sure that they're making sure that at least you can play the game on modern hardware, which is nice enough, I would say. But
yeah, I think that's important, even just that by itself. But Moose, you talked about smaller games there and sort of the space for them in the market. Guess what? We got a lot of smaller games announced.
Oh man!
In the Nindy Showcase, We had a part two, sort of, in many ways, to the indies highlights that we had last week for at Gamescom that Nintendo announced. And they announced, I mean, like, we got a couple of things that were my big takeaways from this. One, all these games are coming very soon. The latest game that we got was early 2019.
Yeah.
Right. Everything else is coming this year.
There was like 2 or 3 that were even early 19, like barely any. Like the rest was all like, it was like September, October, or winter, you know? Like it was like extremely soon.
Mm-hmm. And so I just want to hit some highlights, you know, and sort of ask our impressions of them, because I think we've all watched this presentation. One, the sort of like before we go thing, I'll start at their end is going to be our beginning. Into the Breach got announced for the Switch and then released the same day.
Yes. So I think this was a fantastic announcement. A perfect, like, you know, thing to close the show with. Like a really good and one more thing. Because going in, like, Into the Breach was actually one of the games I really most wanted ported to Switch, right? Because, like, you know, we say perfect for Switch a lot. Mm-hmm. But the way Into the Breach works, like, it really is, like, you really, like, it's really nice to have it on a portable console, right?
Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know what it is, it's sort of like it's a strategy game. You can tell more in detail.
Yeah, so it's a I'll go into that in a little bit, but like the thing with Into the Breach was FTL, which is the previous game these guys made, that was never ported to consoles, right? That only came to mobile.
Made it to iPad, yeah.
Yeah, I made it to the iPad, and I think because, you know, they make games that are mostly designed for a mouse or a touchscreen experience, right? And I think a lot of people thought that about Into the Breach as well. But, you know, here got, like, Nintendo sought after that game and made it a big deal, you know? And I think that's great. Like, and it's funny because it doesn't actually it doesn't use the touchscreen, which you would think, right? No, it controls completely with the analog stick and buttons. But I just think having that kind of game in a portable setting just works really well, and I'm really happy that Nintendo sought after that and, like, you know, like, recognize, like, hey, like, this is a big enough deal to make this our show closer for this, you know, indie presentation. But so the way the gameplay works is, like, it's a strategy game. You actually, Will, if you don't mind explaining, because I need to look something up real quick. But
okay, so it's a strategy game. It sort of has like an isometric sort of over the head view, a smaller map. So I don't think it ever really gets beyond sort of like a 10x10 grid. No, not even 10x10, probably like 7x7 grid. But and you have your units and and then the enemy units that pop up, of course. Your whole thing is that, like, you are defending these different islands from these creatures that burrow underground and then rise up. So, like, you know, every turn you'll see, oh, they're going to be emerging from these holes next time. And so part of the game is planning your units where they need to be for when the things are going to emerge, planning things like that. It's very run-based, so, you know, you might die very quickly in this thing. But you can then transfer, every time you get a the whole premise is that you are a pilot and they figured out a way to send you back in time 3 days ago, right? So it's sort of like that Tom Cruise movie, Live, Die, Repeat, where you take all your skills back, so you don't have to entirely restart every single run. You take that one pilot that you pick of your choosing, and it brings over his abilities. And you have different types of units that can do different things. Some are better at range, some are up close and punch the giant bugs. But it's one that's like, I would recommend looking up gameplay of it to sort of get a better look in your mind. But it is, I played it on PC when it came out earlier this year. Moose is playing it for the first time on Switch, and it does not look like Advance Wars a whole lot. Like, it is pixel art, so it sort of has that Advance Wars thing, but like, it is a strategy game that's scaled down to work for a mobile experience in a way that I think makes it accessible for anyone.
It's definitely extremely, like, because I've been playing a little bit of it. Like, I just started, like, I played maybe like an hour or two probably. But it's first of all, like, and I think this is super important in a strategy game. Like, it controls really well. Like, you wouldn't think, like, like, control, but like, no, like, it's super fluid, you know, in a way where you constantly want to it makes, because, you know, you don't want a clunky game, right? You're not constantly navigating through different units. Like they made it control extremely well, and it's just super. The levels are short enough where you can play in these quick bursts. That it just makes it really nice for the Switch, and I'm extremely happy it's on there.
Yeah. So I mean, like, not to go too into depth on that, but like that's obviously if that interests you, it's out right now, so you can literally go look immediately. It's great. But some other things that we got just like in a montage, a confirmation that both Bastion and Transistor are coming to Switch. Hyper Light Drifter's coming to Switch in September, and then Bastion's also coming in September. Undertale's coming in September. Towerfall Ascension is coming in September. It has a new mode for Switch, and Celeste from what's her name? Madeline from Celeste is in the game as a playable character. Jackbox Party Pack 5 is coming to Switch in October. So I mean that might be a Jump Up Supercast stream. Look out for that maybe.
No,
we'll see if it's able if we create
Don't
stuff.
Don't be afraid of that. Come on,
from Twitch before.
Embrace us. People.
So real quick about Bastion, Transistor, Undertale, and Towerfall, like these, and Hyper Light Drifter, like these are games that like are already out. Granted, right? But I like very critically acclaimed. Probably like some of the first games you hear about when you hear about like great indie content, right? And it's really nice that Nintendo's going after these guys, going after these games, trying to get them on their platform, and all in quick succession, right? So, like, there's a good chance you haven't played all of them, right? And I think they know that. So it's like, hey, like, you missed out on one of these, play it on Switch.
And a good way to play it.
Yeah. And it's like a lot in just 1 month, right?
Like we said, that's all September to October. Like, the only October thing I said there was Jackbox. We're also getting in that same thing. Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP is coming in October. But some of them are further down the line but got announced. We got the announcement of Samurai Gun 2, which is very exciting. I don't know if any of you guys have ever played the first Samurai Gun.
No.
That's another fun stream game. That it is very much in the style. It always got compared to Towerfall, right? Because both of them sort of have you like on one screen, 4-player versus. In Samurai Gun, instead of having arrows, you have a gun with 3 bullets and a sword, and you can dash, and so you can deflect bullets with your sword. So someone can shoot at you, and you can swipe to hit it back at them, and you can dash to dodge things, and and it gets intense very quickly, but the thing that was most exciting about this is that the multiplayer we didn't see too much new from, but we saw a single player, which the first game didn't have at all. It has a story. We got a lot of lore for Samurai Gun, which is strange for these type of games. So there's getting a graphic novel that's coming with the game when it comes out. Like just
that you can view on your Switch. Right?
You can view on your Switch, which is strange. I mean, we got like wasn't this week? Did it leak that we're getting like a comics reader on Switch sometime soon? That's
there's a comic book reader. They're officially announced, actually. Yeah, there's a comic book reader coming to the Switch,
which is interesting.
It's funny that Samurai Gun is doing that, right? Where you can, I think they kind of thought like, hey, this thing is a kind of like a tablet. Why not? Let's put a graphic novel in there.
Yeah, just throw it in there.
Really well on Switch. So.
A game that warmed my heart to see it shown off in an E3 Direct, Mineko's Night Market, a game that is like part Animal Crossing, part Harvest Moon, part cat racing, where you plant cats in the ground and they grow like lettuce, Cabbage Patch Kids, and then you ride them at night in like a horse race. And if you want to see just a game that is cute and will warm your heart, that's there. But perhaps the biggest game announcement of 2018 so far, everyone. It's not an announcement, but it's an important follow-up. Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, I want that game so badly.
I think this was kind of the standout game of the showcase. Funnily enough, it looked a lot of fun, right? Like you look at the trailer and it's just an asshole goose. Like
it is a stealth game where you play as a goose. Yeah, the game trailer is like, this is a pleasant town where everyone's like sort of chill, and you are a horrible goose. and you just go up and you scare people by honking them. You steal their stuff. You just make their lives a living nightmare. And there's nothing I want to do more in a video game than play as this a-hole goose.
It looks a lot of fun. It's like kind of Metal Gear Solid, but also kind of sandboxy, but also like you're a goose. Yeah. So it's like
the goose factor cannot be overstated.
Yeah, no.
But that was generally, there was some stuff that we skipped over there, but that is, go watch the Indie Showcase. Those are always good presentations. And even if, like you don't have a Switch, a lot of those games will come to other platforms eventually. So like look at indie games that might be good. But we did get one other sort of big gameplay demo this week. And when I say big, I say big. We got, you may remember, a little game that got a little bit of buzz at E3. A few people talked about it. Cyberpunk 2077. At E3, they had behind closed door demos for this game that the press got to see. They talked about it. They were all very like, oh, look at this game. It looks great, yada, yada. But everyone's like, well, when are we going to see it? When are we going to see it? The answer is closer than we thought, because Wednesday this week, we got 48 minutes of gameplay for Cyberpunk 2077, which is maybe the longest demo for a first ever showing for a game ever. I don't know one that was longer, to be fair. 48 minutes is a lot of it, and it's pretty uninterrupted. Like, there's a guy talking over it. I didn't love him a whole lot because he was sort of like, in this mature game, you're going to have to make the tough choices. And you're like, shut up, dude. Like, just let the game speak for itself a little bit.
So I think before you go into the gameplay itself, though, just to note how big this reveal was.
Oh, yeah, that was what. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, so the thing that was crazy about this to me is that they didn't like announce it was happening. No. Like, they had a little loading bar on their Twitch channel a couple hours beforehand, and it was like loading over time, and it stayed at 99% for like 15 minutes just to screw with people. Which, if you've ever rendered a video on your computer, you understand the hatred of the 99% bar. But this thing, like, it got to, I think, 250,000 viewers live when it was shown off on Twitch, which is like finals of Evo numbers, maybe slightly bigger. And it was all done just through, hey man, the cyberpunk thing is happening right now. Like, that's what I did to Moose. Like, I was like, yo, this is happening. What's going on? And he was like, what? Is this a thing? Like, what's happening? And like on YouTube, it has 5 million views within the span of a couple days. Like,
quick thing to know about the YouTube views, it has more views in less days than the Red Dead Redemption 2 gameplay trailer. So,
wow.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, like, and I think it's funny because it is such a unique situation where this game got announced, like, originally, like, kind of as a tech demo, right? Like, we saw, like, CD Projekt Red said, like, look at this is sort of what we could do on a PS4, maybe. But we're also making this a game, but we're going to do Witcher 3 first. And so people said, how far off is this going to be? And the answer is pretty far off. But so yeah, it was like a genuine almost 7 years from like this game getting announced, us seeing gameplay. And so I guess, it makes sense that they had 50 minutes to show when you've had that long. But yeah, I think it was just a big deal. Brandon, you watched some of it. What were your general impressions?
It's looking a lot of fun. I was liking the action.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a crazy car chase, and you're shooting out the back of a truck and driving around, and kind of gave me not really Matrix vibes, but I guess one of my favorite scenes in any action movie ever is the Matrix Reloaded, in the highway scene.
Oh,
it's just one of my favorite scenes from any movie ever. And I love that scene. So I don't know, I was getting a little bit of vibes from, maybe not as crazy as that, but I just love a good highway action scene.
Mm-hmm.
To just get this nostalgia going. I'm like, oh yeah, cars flipping and people shooting and crazy stuff. I love it.
And I mean, like, two moments I really liked. Like, one, I like that, like, we're getting to this point with games where I'm sure we all remember Red Faction, right? that series, the whole selling point was you can break everything, right? Like it's all like when you swing your sledgehammer, you can dig into a wall, you can tear down any structure. We're getting there a little bit with big open world games, right? Like now we have, like they make a point of saying there's a whole type of ammunition that's all about destroying cover that people are in front of, right? This destroying walls, that is destroying things that people are standing on, like that whole stuff. And that was exciting. And the other thing is there's just a moment where like you're ricocheting bullets, like you get a power. They later on they have you like powered up so you can see some of the skills you can unlock. And there's one where you can see the ricochet of where your shot will be if you like shoot a wall or like shoot a thing, and it'll bounce off. So like if an enemy's behind cover, you can like move, see where the ricochet will be, and then like fire and like see the bullet bounce and then hit them. And you're like, yo, this is sick. This is just a cool video game thing, right? Like
the combat looked really fun and fluid. Yeah. And there was, you had like kind of like left and right like strafe dodges that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And which is a thing that you don't usually get in a lot of first-person shooters.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
And so it was. I think it was just a neat thing, partially because also CD Projekt Red was not exactly well known for their combat before this, right? Like Witcher 3, people say a lot of things nice to say about it. The combat's not normally the thing that people go from the rooftop screaming about. But I think this looked good. Like, I think it's not like it's clearly inspired by a lot of other cyberpunk things. But we haven't really we had Deus Ex, and that was sort of like the only like really big cyberpunk AAA game that like happened in the last couple, years. And so I think that like having a studio that is
an expansion or DLC for Far Cry or something with the dinosaurs or something.
There was, that was Blood Dragon, but that's like straight up 80s, like we're in the 80s and like there's dinosaurs with like lasers on their back, right? Exactly. which is straight up like it's crazy farce and I love it, but like this is I like to see someone, see like them try to realize this world.
Game, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going for the the fucking Harrison Ford movie.
Blade Runner.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the one
for that kind of thing.
Which is cool. So if you got an hour to blow, watch that. But like I said, that was a lot of news and a lot of just like talking about video games we got to see, which is fun.
That was fun.
But boys, we're here to talk about, all those are baby games. They're for idiots. Cyberpunk, who cares? We're here to talk about the important things of the world. We're here, 5 of us, to discuss what will be put on the list. And this week, thank you, Miss. And this week, it comes around to me, baby. Will's turn to add something to the list. Big Willie style. And I thought, what do I want to do? I had multiple things, but I settled on a game that is on the Super Nintendo that I know at least one of us has a passion for. And I just want to talk about it. It is a little bit of I would say a cult classic on the SNES, arcade-ish style game, Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Oh
yeah.
So Zombies Ate My Neighbors. If you don't know what it is like I said, it is a arcadey, I would say, over the head game that's on the SNES. It's heavily inspired by B movies, right? As the title might imply. It's not trying to be Resident Evil scary. It's not trying to be Silent Hill psychological horror. You're playing as a guy or a girl. Girl's wearing, like a bright purple jacket and a baseball cap. The guy's wearing 3D glasses and a skull t-shirt. You're extremely radical 80s kids. But there are zombies. There are all manner of horror creatures in your neighborhood, and they're going to eat your neighbors unless you're careful. And so that is sort of the basic premise. And this game has like hundreds of levels, just like you can go forever, basically. But every level sort of, like the very first level, it's zombies, right? And you go around with your little water pistol, with your soda cans that work like grenades, with your weed whackers, and you just use all kinds of different weapons on the zombies while you're rescuing all the people, the neighbors that are in the level. And when you find all the neighbors, you move on to the next level, which could be anything. They hit every single horror trope you can imagine. They go to, Jason Voorhees in a hedge maze. You get demon clown baby dolls in the mall. You get giant babies you gotta fight.
Pyramids,
Everything
like,
else
against
along the
mummies
way.
and shit.
Yeah, you just like because there's hundreds of levels. Like I said, they got plenty of stuff to get to. But Brandon, I know because I was trying to see if anyone else played this game for the list. You said that this is one of your favorite Super Nintendo games.
It is.
What do you like so much about it?
I love a lot of stuff about it. I love the co-op. That's a thing. That man, a good co-op game is always fun, especially a couch co-op. And this game had co-op. Man, you play together. One guy's one's a dude, one's a chick, and it's just a blast to play together with a friend. Another thing I love is just the 80s movies, horror movie tropes that you get to see throughout the game. The game doesn't take itself very serious at all. But it also has some scares. Some of the sound effects and some of the monsters are pretty creepy.
Yeah.
The giant baby.
The giant baby is a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Giant babies are very scary. And I also love the weapon variety, and I love the level layouts. I love the design of the characters and the monsters. I love the music. There's a lot to love about this game. It's very fun. But it is very difficult also.
It's very hard. It's funny because it almost like follows the trajectory of the movies. It's like parodying a little bit, right? Where like it's doing a lot of like B movies and like that type of stuff. And this game, when it came out, was not a huge commercial success, right? But like over time, people that did play it were like, "Yo, man, this game is really good. You should try it." And they were like, and it rose in popularity and it entered this cult status where like I remember when the Virtual Console first happened on the Wii. I remember just seeing whole campaigns for people being like, "Get Zombies Ate My Neighbors on the Virtual Console, please." Like this is.
Did it make it? I think
and it made
right?
it. It did make it to
nice.
the Wii. I don't know if it made it to the Wii U, but it definitely made it to the Wii because that was the first place that I ever played it. So yeah, I mean, it's like, but like you said, it's hard unless you are got that game genie and those infinite lives code. You're gonna be restarting a couple times. It sort of has that Pac-Man thing where like. Eventually it gets so fast that like unless you are a god, you're gonna get killed. Like like there's not like a like hard end to the story. I've never made it far enough to say.
I actually have never beat the damn game.
I don't know if
it's fucking hard.
I don't know if it ever stops is my thing. I think I remember reading that like they just keep cycling you over and over, which is
it does
wild.
Keep cycling through the same like areas kind of, with different layouts.
Yeah.
So you do get a little bit of that, but I remember there's a password system. I remember
there is,
if I remember correctly, and I think though once you get a game over, like you have to the password only starts you back like maybe 5 or 10 stages.
Yeah,
like you can't start from the stage you were on guaranteed. I think it was like every 10 stages you would have to start over again. Yeah,
but
so it could get very difficult at times.
But. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. We've went very long with the list the last couple episodes. So I guess I'll just get to sort of, since I'm the one bringing it, where I want to put it on the list. And we can.
You think this is going to be short, Will?
It might not be. That's my concern.
You never know.
You never know. I would like to put it around the 20-ish zone, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. But that, sort of in the space of Cave Story, Valkyria Chronicles, Animal Crossing, Drill Dozer, that sort of territory. Because I like this game a lot.
Okay.
How does that? Where does everybody else feel?
I like it a lot too, but I was actually going to put it a lot lower.
You know what? I'm willing to hear you on a lot lower. I was mostly wanted to put it high so Brandon wouldn't get mad at me. But you know what? Brandon's not going to get mad at me. I'll move it down.
I like how I have that kind of power.
Well,
but
you just threatened that we might go 50 minutes on this. How do you feel? How do you feel about like the Mario 3D Land Limbo Stardew Valley territory then? I feel like that might be right.
I feel that because I was scoping it out when we talked about this a little bit earlier. I was scoping it out ahead of time, and I was thinking. I mean, after a couple minutes of deliberation, my thought was number 29 underneath Until Dawn.
Underneath Until Dawn, but above Alundra.
I was gonna put it at number 30.
Okay.
So below Alundra, but above Zack and Wiki.
That I can feel too.
I don't
Alright.
care.
Neither do I. I mean, I enjoyed
Wow.
it a lot, but
Wait,
Wow,
for
doesn't
trivia,
care about the
was he?
list?
I played it
Wow.
like years ago. It's like over
I mean-
10 years since I played it, so I don't care enough to actually.
I want
I mean,
it
I've never
above
played
Until
it,
Dawn.
so I-
How about that?
One of the things about this game, though, that I have a complaint.
Uh-huh.
We mentioned that it's very hard, right?
Yeah, but-
Well, you know how you use like water guns and like soda can
Yeah, you're
grenades.
very limited
you know?
with ammunition.
Yeah, well, you are. But you use water guns because it's like kind of like aimed towards kids.
Yeah. And you're kids.
But the
You're
game
playing
is
as
very
kids.
hard.
Yeah.
So why is the game very hard, but it's kind of aimed towards kids? I don't get it.
Uh-oh.
Those don't go together.
Uh-oh. I think I see what this might be aimed towards.
Because all I just did was make one opinion, and then I state everything else and about what was wrong with this game.
If you are lost,
Oh my
listen to the
God.
Zack and Wiki episode of the
Brandon
Game
just
Club.
went ape shit over just this one opinion,
No.
and then I had to sit there defend this fucking strawman opinion for the longest
Oh,
goddamn
God.
time. It is the most
did it.
insane thing. And now Zack and Wiki's above near Replicant, which is dumb. The dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, I triggered Sap. That's what I wanted to do. But I
So
feel I was.
stupid. Goddamn.
No.
I want it lore now. I want it lore than fucking Legacy of Goku. Put it below
No!
Nintendo Land. Do it.
Why? Why?
It's aimed for kids. Put it below Nintendo
Okay, so
Land.
Brandon,
That's where it belongs.
Sav, you're not part of this conversation right now. I hate to break it to you. Okay, so Brandon, where do you want it?
Oh God. Sorry, that just made me really happy. I wanted to put it. I don't know. I think right underneath Alundra is good.
I'm willing to allow that to happen.
But yeah, I mean, if you have a case for it being above Alundra or even being above, being higher than that, I'm definitely willing to listen. I'm willing to listen to whatever, because
I mean, if I won't, I'll say why I like it a whole lot, and if you think that is willing to put it above that stuff, then you can make that call. I think that, like you said before, I think that the soundtrack is really good. Like you said, I think it's very hard for a game to straddle the line between goofy and still kind of scary, right? And I think that it does really
a good job.
Really
at it.
good job of that, right? Like there are moments where you sort of go look at this fun goofy thing, there's a baby bouncing on a trampoline, and then you're like, oh god, the baby's a nightmare creature, right? There'll be times where you're like, this isn't a fun, like the Chucky dolls with the chainsaws. Nightmarish creatures, just awful.
Yeah, no, the Jason Voorhees who was chasing after you through a hedge maze with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's very scary.
And so I think that it does a lot with the arcadey style of gameplay, still getting you in the mood of these horror movies that it's emulating, which is goofy but still finding a way to be scary. And I think that's really unique among the place of video games, where Alundra executes its thing really, I think, well. The sort of type of game it is, but it's clearly built on the back of Zelda, and so I think it has a less unique place in the space of video games, which is why I might put Zombies Ate My Neighbors above it. But I get where you're coming from if you disagree.
Mm-hmm. Fair. It's fair. I mean, what about Until Dawn?
Until Dawn.
This is comparing to. I mean, this is something I'd be interested in comparing, right? Because these are both games that do horror movie tropes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But who does it better?
I mean, it's very funny
But they
because
do it in two different ways, don't they? One is just trying to parody it. The other one is just trying to actually
They do.
be more trying to honor it more.
Yeah, one is doing the style of, right? I would say Zombies Ate My Neighbors is in the style of all these things, right? And it's not picking anything in particular because it's you're suddenly in a pyramid, right? Then Until Dawn is we are going to see how we would adapt a slasher film into the act of a video game, which I think hasn't. I might put it below Until Dawn just because I think there was. We all know the experience of watching a horror movie, and being you idiot, why would you do that? Why would you go in there? Why not go make a phone call? Why not go do this thing? Until Dawn is hey, you've been talking trash for 20 years of your life watching these movies. put up or shut up. Are you gonna make it? And I think that's just a really neat like thing that got built up over a long
I
time.
never thought of Until Dawn that way. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I mean, I would probably put it below Until Dawn, but like
it
above.
is. There's a lot of. I never really thought of it either like that, and there is a lot of choices that you get in that game.
Mhm.
That
like, do you go in the
kinda
closet
put
or do you
you-
just keep running down the hallway? Like that type of stuff that like you see.
yeah, they put you in the seat. They really do.
Yep. So so I would put it above Alundra, but below Until Dawn is sort of where I would put the perspective of it.
Okay, I agree with that.
Same.
Noah.
I was gonna put it below Alundra though. Like that's the right area, but I just think Alundra is like overall a better experience / package. Like, like Zombie Eat My Neighbors is really fun and all, and it has the couch co-op and everything. But the main thing that stuck out to me is the game can get pretty cheap sometimes with like a special edition of Voorhees and the mazes and stuff. That was like my only main concern.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially later on when you get in there, it does get like really just like,
Yeah.
oof, you better get.
I mean, Alundra and not Until. Well, I guess Until Dawn too, but Alundra and Zombies Ate My Neighbors are both games that are honestly very good games, but they're not without their flaws.
Of course,
Yeah. Because like I mean, I liked Alundra a whole lot. I think like looking back on it, like I really had a lot of fun with it, but like there were some times like with Alundra though where I would like with dungeons, I think we all had where you're sort of like, that was a pretty lame puzzle. Like I don't quite get like what you were going for there, guys. And so I would say that like the Zombies Ate My Neighbors things are cheap, right? But sometimes the cheapness can be in service of like the horror part of it, right? Like the Jason and Voorhees and the Maze is both very sometimes cheap, but it's also genuinely like makes you feel like it's this big threat that you just have to run from and you can't try to fight. Like I remember stocking up the stuns for him just because like it was, and I think stuff like that, like it almost does have that Resident Evil thing of like saving like the magnum ammo for the big guy. Like I think that it does that using like an arcade SNES game, I think is really cool and I respect it for that stuff.
Well,
wow.
I'm gonna still say I agree a lot with a lot of the points that Will's making. So I'm gonna stick with above Alundra, below Until Dawn.
Well, here we go.
All right, what
Saf,
about the other two?
Yeah. Saf Muzino.
I'm good.
With what?
Above or below. I don't really. I'm not.
Well, great. The two options, you're cool with either. That's your vote.
I can't tell you what's better. I will tell you the aesthetic of Alundra interests me more. So, take that as you will.
Okay. All right.
Saf is the tiebreaker.
How many minutes do we have? How many?
None.
We have all the minutes in the world.
Oh no.
I don't know. I want to go for shit. I want to go for it to be above Alundra. Like I feel as though it's got a lot more going for it. It's a little bit more difficult, but I disagree with Brandon's kind of. Your Brandon Stevens is like it's the same layout, but because they still have a lot of different varieties, still have a lot of different things in each and every level of that game. The one Zombies Neighbor Email.
Mm-hmm.
It does have like the repetitive
gameplay, but the
levels it's looking a little bit fuzzy for me. Are the levels like?
I remember it being a lot. Like I remember it being a lot more varied when I.
Is there a lot of variety in the levels?
Yeah, I mean, like they might have you like in like the garden level, like the same like look of the garden level again, but like you'll be doing a different thing. And, like there was the type of level I really love is like you start at daytime and you don't see it normally, and you have to find everybody before nighttime, and it's a ticking clock because if it reaches nighttime, all the neighbors turn into werewolves, and you lose all of them. And that's the thing I didn't mention is like if you're not just protecting yourself, if your neighbors get attacked by enemies while they're on screen and you're not protecting them, they get killed, and that type of neighbor won't show up again for the rest of the thing. So the ways you can die is by getting a game over or by having your neighbors be killed. And so I think that like I actually like that system of like there's 10 different types of neighbors, so like that's another way that they sort of like incentivize you to not just be turtling the entire time and just killing everything near you, but like rushing around to try to find them as quick as possible. Which is just, I think there's variety.
I don't remember that part. So you
Yeah.
lose them if they get hit by the previous level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they die.
So like if the baby gets hit, you don't see another baby for the rest of the game. That baby's dead. Goodbye, baby.
Okay, so is there no like... Man, the game is really fuzzy. So there's no extra lives, basically?
You have lives, and then they are a thing, right? So either if the two ways to lose is if you run out of lives, or if all 10 different types of neighbors get hit, basically. And so I think that like it's the two ways to like sort of manage that, which I think is cool. And the werewolf thing is only in certain levels, and it like tells you beforehand. It's like gotta go find them
at the beginning.
Yeah. So I think that they have variety in there, because also there'll be certain like in the pyramid levels, like there are certain walls you can only break if you have like the grenade soda cans and stuff like that. So like you can plan and like save for those, so you can like have shortcuts, or like the weed whacker will go through the hedge maze levels faster because it's a weed whacker, obviously. And so
it's not set level. The layout's never set. It's like kind of...
No, it's set.
That's set.
No, it's set levels,
So if you know the level, you can go through it.
Yeah, you can, yeah. So,
yeah.
But it sounded like Saf was going to put it above it then?
Yep.
Okay. Well, then I guess that makes...
All right.
3-1
We did it.
vote. Number 29 on the list. Zombies Hate My Neighbors, going above Alundra. But like we said, obviously these games are comparable. We had a good conversation around them, I think. But that was fun. Thanks for entertaining my list, everyone. My list choice. That is the podcast for this week. I guess I should give you what's surrounding it, even though we talked. 27, Limbo. 28, Until Dawn. 29, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Number 30, Alundra. And 31, Zack and Wiki, Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure. The most recent Game Club game. You heard a little bit of the aftermath of that episode on the start of this list portion, so if you want to get the context, go listen. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm. And watch it on YouTube if you want, because I uploaded game footage. So if you want to see the game in action while you listen to us, watch it on YouTube.
Thank you for plugging the YouTube channel, Brandon, because we are now uploading on YouTube again. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
But
You're welcome.
We do other things on on the Jump Up Supercast. Like I said, we got the Game Club. We have the YouTube, right? We're gonna see if we can start uploading some things to YouTube, the Twitch archives, because we stream at least. I mean, did we do it 3 times today?
Yeah.
3 times this week?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we've been consistent. Actually, I think this week Noah had technical difficulties Tuesday.
We were almost at 4.
Technically, the stream button was pressed though, so we counted 4.
That's true. It was.
But we so we are streaming on Twitch 4 times a week sometimes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. The co-op club was back this week too.
Yeah.
Oh baby. So
We finished Unravel too. It was great.
go check that out, because, and I'm going to mention this, we cannot yet fully archive Twitch because we do not have 50 followers on Twitch. If we get to 50 followers, we can. So please do that for us, because otherwise,
We're like halfway there.
yeah, we're like halfway there. Just, we see how many people listen to this podcast a week, and if you get there, we'll be pretty darn close.
We love you guys.
yeah. So please do that. And if you want to know when we are streaming, go to twitter.com/jumpupsupercast, where we will tweet when the podcasts are live, when they are live on YouTube, when we are streaming. That's the one-stop shop for all your stuff. Jump Up Supercast. Look forward to next week. We're going to be recording the Game Club for Ghost Trick. Saf's very excited about that, because that's a game he loves a whole lot. That might get heated. That list might get heated if depending on the impressions. But we
And his bullshit again.
Oh, it's gonna happen, but I'll be fair, but I'm gonna bait the fuck
that
out.
stupid thing with Zack and Vicky.
That's fine.
I'm good now for the week. I'm done baiting.
Oh,
you
that
now.
should be way lower, but then I got caught in his stupid
But that is the
comments.
podcast. That is the podcast. And you know what, Saf? Because you got baited, because you had a moment where Brandon got the one up on you, why don't you get the last little, final phrase?
I will talk about Zack and Wicked, how terrible that game is. God damn it, what the fuck is it doing up above fucking Nier Replicant? It's got worse music than Nier, unmemorable. Its gameplay is terrible. Well, it's not functioning right. It's aged. It's frustrating compared to Nier, which is serviceable. The story is nothing. The characters are nothing. And somehow it managed to get voted above fucking Nier. How the hell did that happen? This is the most nonsense thing I've ever seen in my entire life.